All right, what is going on, guys? It is Adam, aka Marf, and this is Marfoogle News. We have a lot to go over in a short amount of time, so remember you have a full bibliography over on marfooglenews.com. Now, today, we're not only going to talk about a huge revelation as far as in the Middle East, but we're also going to talk about the threats against the United States. We are also going to get deeper into that into a show that is coming up right after this over on our sister channel, Marfoogle TV. We're going to talk about, of course, later on, all of the weird, crazy stuff that is being said by Putin, including, the weird stuff being said by Putin, and then the weird stuff that they are saying that he is going to do, including trying to sabotage planes all over the place. So I smell something is cooking right now, and it's most likely nefarious. Who knows who's actually behind it? But before we get started, I do want to remind you guys, make sure to go check out marfooglenews.com/EMP. A lot of the things that are happening right now are very scary, but there are ways you can actually protect yourself against those. Go over to marfooglenews.com/EMP. You can actually get yourself an actual device that will protect you against not only EMP strikes from an adversary or a non-nuclear EMP, but it will also protect you against a solar event. Again, it will protect you against a Carrington-level event. It is very easy to put in your car, less than 10 minutes, marfooglenews.com/EMP. Make sure to use the code MARF. That will only not only save you $50 off per device, but it will also help independent journalism as well. All right, I'm going to turn this over to my co-internet brother, Dex James. What is going on, and how are you doing today?
Well, hello, Adam, and hello, Foogle fam. I'm doing just fine.
So, first of all, a huge revelation happened with the hostages. And let's talk about what T-Man had happen in this meeting today. So this is a big deal, very, very big deal. So there is now a ceasefire deal. It's going to be done right before the Don takes office, as he had requested. It is not only a ceasefire from on the action, but also the release of those that have been taken. So all the hostages will be released. That's the deal. It's finally been brokered. This deal has been on the table for many, many months, but it couldn't, for some reason, it couldn't get over the goal line, so to speak. And of course, today, it's being politicized in a big way, because, of course, today, as JB has walked out and done his farewell speech, he basically took credit for the whole thing because it's under his watch. But as it's been reported by even the folks in Israel, that the reason this went through was because of the envoy that was sent over by the Don. So his early, the envoy that he had put together to get started on the negotiations for this in advance, were over there for quite some time, pushing for this and negotiating to get this deal done. Now, it doesn't really matter. I mean, it does matter, I guess. I'm less concerned about who gets the credit. At the end of the day, we all know who was saying they were going to light the Middle East on fire, so to speak, if it didn't happen before he got into office. And that was pretty much a serious, threat, if you want to call it that. And I think that was taken quite seriously by all of those involved, including Iran, who has a lot of control over this group. But what ultimately matters now is that this potentially, and we'll see, because it's got to actually go through. But they have reached the deal. They've signed the deal. The question is, as the days come up, the next few days come up, do they get released? Does everything stop? The ceasefire date is coming up in a couple of days, I believe. Will it happen? So that's the news. And I guess what we'll see is in big old asterisk, right? We still have 5 days to go until the official switch of power. I don't think that the next 5 days are going to be without craziness. So, again, if we do see him switch in, you have to realize, look at all of the things that are lining up for him to start his presidency. All of these countries are either on fire or there's a fire under their feet to get a fire started. And then we have Puerto Rico. Governor asks the Don, the next president, to intervene after Venezuela's Maduro threatened to invade the U.S. The governor of Puerto Rico pleaded with President-elect to intervene after Venezuelan dictator Nicolas Maduro threatened to invade the U.S. island territory. In a letter addressed to the Don himself, Governor Jennifer Gonzalez Colon, just a few days after holding an illegitimate swearing-in ceremony in a desperate attempt to cling to power in Venezuela, Maduro, quote, publicly proposed an invasion of Puerto Rico. I cannot believe how much there has been talk about invasion in general. I mean, even the U.S., even, Donald is talking about, Greenland, and we're going to cover that later on tonight. There's actually some headway with that. Greenland's leaders are saying that this might actually happen. So if that's going to happen, what if that does happen, what about Canada? Now Trudeau is stepping down right as all of this was being said. It's just weird. It's like they know something we don't. But I highly think that they would know something and not tell us, right? I mean, this is the same government, the same representatives that wear $12,000 dresses to work and $20,000 suits and complain about it. So, yeah, these people totally think about us first. Maduro, who was sworn in for a third 6-year presidential term despite international condemnation of his recent prick as an international or as an illegitimate, made the threat Saturday at the end of the International Anti-Fascist Festival. Wow, they've got some really, really poppin' names over there. Hosted in Caracas, the socialist dictator made an apparent reference to the Don's remarks eyeing U.S. control of the Panama Canal and Greenland, stating, just as the North has an agenda of colonization, we have an agenda of liberation. Maduro vowed that freedom of Puerto Rico is pending, and we will achieve it with Brazilian troops, according to Latin America reports. So it says this is an open threat to the United States, our national security, and stability in the region. Gonzalez Colon said, of course, and then T-Man said, I trust your incoming administration will swiftly respond and make clear to the Maduro regime that under your leadership that the United States will protect American lives and sovereignty and will not bow down to the threats of petty murderous dictators. So, first of all, I think one really interesting part is how he says freedom of Puerto Rico is pending and we will achieve it with Brazilian troops. So you're now pulling in another party. I mean, like, how many countries are literally involved in this? Now we just had, of course, a treaty signed. Who was the newest one? There was North Korea and then Russia first, and then after they signed a treaty, immediately North Korea ended up sending in troops. Dex, who just signed the treaty last night? It wasn't Iran, was it? It was Iran.
Yeah, it was Iran.
So Iran just signed a treaty. So all of these peace deals are going through, right? I don't believe it. Iran just signed a treaty with Russia, basically a military treaty, and now there's going to be peace deals the next day. I don't know. I'm sorry. And it looks like it physically looks like it's on their end, like they're kind of surrendering, right? I think something is about to happen. But again, that's just my best guess. Look at how many countries have done the same exact thing and then immediately gotten involved in a war. They physically put it down that they would back each other up militarily in any and every way. So, yeah. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments down below. And then, just as we've talked about for the last 2 months, of course, Sarah Adams' interview over on Sean Ryan's show talked about how she believes that there will be nationwide events with terror groups and that they were going to attack not only the U.S., but, of course, a simultaneous one in Europe. Now the FBI DHS is warning of New Orleans-style vehicle ramming attacks. Again, by copycats. They're calling these guys copycats. So it's already put out there. Well, how are they guessing this, right? It says, quote, the FBI and DHS are concerned about possible copycat or retaliatory attacks due to the persistent appeal of vehicle ramming as a tactic for aspiring extreme attackers. So just because that guy did... One thing about that New Orleans thing is I don't think to anybody, even the crazies out there, that looked particularly inspiring. I'm sorry. I don't think that is a good way to go out. I don't think anybody would be inspired by that kind of thing. You would think after the whole talk of the last 2 weeks of them possibly talking about how California was actually done by people, you would think that would be what they were copycatting, right? But of course now they're saying about the cars. Dex, as far as this New Orleans thing, it's like they're planting the seed that, oh, there's going to be more of these events. It's just like I've said for the last 6 years. These happen they happen in groups. Like it was ramming attacks, then it was going into grocery stores with weapons, then it was explosives on trains. I mean, it was just like one thing after another, and it was like you had 5 of the same type, then 5 of another type, and then 5 of another type. It reminds me of early back after 2001, after the towers. Only we haven't had the towers. We haven't had some big event like that yet.
Well, it also makes me wonder what other rules they can get put in place if attacks like this ramp up. The ability to, create no drive zones or be able to disable vehicles in any particular areas. I mean, there could be all sorts of new regulations that could come out from this type of threat. And as they hype it up or talk more about it, or they become more prevalent, of course, everybody's going to be saying, "Oh, do something to protect us," and they'll take whatever loss of freedom goes along with that.
They'll say, "Oh, well." You'll have somebody in Congress say, "Hey, there's already systems right now. We're enacting this other thing for drunk drivers that looks at the drivers and has cameras involved, and it can shut down the car." They're going to say, "Hey, why can't we use that system?" And they're going to go, scientists actually say we could. We should pass a bill where each new car has to be manufactured with camera systems and different systems that can be remotely turned off, that can pull the car over. If police or law enforcement want to pull over a car, they can just pull it over. There's huge problems with this, and we have called it for years because there have been these different things basically predicted for a long time. All of this has been out there. They're going to put techs in cars that is going to be able to pull them over at any time, limit their speed, these kind of things. Some people think this is a good idea. They think, "Oh yeah, well, that doesn't sound bad." Well, what if you're wrongfully accused and you're driving down the street and they pull you over and take you out? I mean, like, that's horrible. The thing is the justice system isn't always right. Neither is the law enforcement system. Heck, how many people have sat in jail or prison for years and years and years only to be released, decades later because they didn't do it, and they had absolute proof they didn't do it. They had some sort of, cop with the stick up their what. So yeah, as far as this goes, they're already putting the seed in though for other attacks, and it is 2025. It's like you just know the timing of this is super suspicious. 5 days before all of the last things over the last week, everything is starting to really add up, and I don't see how people could not see this. We're going to talk about the rest of the story. There's also notices, and they're basically telling us that Putin is planning on taking out planes and sabotaging planes all over the U.S. and things like this. We'll talk about what the Polish Prime Minister said. There's a lot of craziness. So stick around. Again, if you're in the chat, you can just stay here for the next show. But if you are watching the replay, all you have to do is click here. We'll be over on our sister channel in a couple seconds. Make sure to click the link below. And, of course, you have the full bibliography over on marfooglenews.com. Just look for today's thumbnail.